This class is going to be taken by myself, Yuli, and my British colleague, Si Mingcheng. I'm going to talk to you first mostly in Chinese and discuss a bit more about why Dragon Boat Festival, thousands of years later, is still so important to modern Chinese people. Si Mingcheng is then going to discuss the same topic in English. I hope you enjoy it. 时间过得很快，还有2个月就要到1年1度的端午节了。大街小巷的小吃店也开始陆续摆出了诱人的粽子，吸引着路人。想象一下，当我们跟来自英语国家的朋友一起逛街时，看到了令人垂涎欲滴的粽子，我该如何跟我的朋友解释粽子呢？ How can we explain 粽子 to an English-speaking foreign friend? 粽叶究竟是什么的叶子呢？粽子里的糯米如何表述？粽子里包裹的食材因地域不同而大相径庭。南方喜食肉粽和红豆粽，而北方多以蜜枣糯米粽为主。大家千万不要离开屏幕，稍后司明成老师会为大家带来解答哦。关于莎士比亚的《哈姆雷特》，中国人有这么一个说法：1000个读者就有1000个哈姆雷特。There are 1000 Hamlets in 1000 people's eyes。对于中国传统节日如端午节，屏幕前的你或许有着自己的特殊的感触。尤里也来聊一下这么多年过端午节的感想吧。当我还是个学生的时候，那时的传统文化节日对我来说，更多的意义是终于可以多放2天假了。This traditional festival, as far as I was concerned, simply meant that I could finally take 2 days holiday. 终于可以不用每天在学校和家之间2点一线了。终于可以去外公外婆家找我的表兄弟玩了。终于可以吃到想念了1年的糯米粽子了。当醇香的糯米沾上绵绵的细砂糖，那清甜的味道迅速从舌尖扩散到整个口腔，美味极了。时光荏苒，我们在长大，外公外婆也在老去。渐渐的，他们的眼睛花了，腰也弯了。红色的盆里仍然是洗得干干净净的糯米和摆放整齐的粽叶。可是盆边包粽子的人变成了姨母们。再然后，外公外婆走了，身处海外的我，每到端午节时，都会凭着儿时的记忆，用不娴熟的记忆缠着一个又一个奇形怪状的粽子。Being abroad at the time, every time Dragon Boat Festival came around, I would draw on my childhood memories and, despite my lack of skill, produce粽子 after misshapen 粽子。终于，我意识到何谓传承。传承就是一家人共度传统佳节，不同年代的人聚在一起，一次又一次地重复着只属于那个节日的习俗。少小之时，我们或许不懂，但那种民族认同感以及对祖辈、对先人的记忆和怀念，早已融入了属于那个节日的特殊味道，早已根植于心。说到对先人的怀念，说起来，端午节真的是中国传统节日中非常罕见的对某一位特定的历史名人进行缅怀的节日。那么，缅怀屈原大夫的传统为何能够薪火相传 ？Why is it that he, out of all the great figures in Chinese history, has been singled out for commemoration? 通过缅怀屈原大夫，我们希望传递给后代怎样的情感和价值取向呢？个中缘由不胜其多，但我想有这样2个原因非常值得一提。一，屈原大夫毕生对美的追求 was devoted to the pursuit of beauty。他是著名的爱国抒情诗人，他所创作的《离骚》是我国古代最长抒情诗，全篇曲折变化，广泛运用比兴手法，通过具体艺术意象如美人、凤凰、香草、女婿等词， 构成悠远的意境，波澜壮阔而又结构完美，具有丰富的审美内涵，对楚辞和后代的文学创作影响极为深远。2，在追寻美的同时，屈原大夫亦秉承着心中的那份正义和高尚的品德，他对故国有着狂热的忠诚度。He was fiercely loyal to his own state， 以至于不惜牺牲自己毕生追求的美好生活而忤逆君王，最终惨遭数次流放，自溺于汨罗江中。他在诗歌中传递了对美好生活充满热忱，却在乱世之中甘愿为了坚定的道德原则而不惜牺牲自己的美好生活，甚至宝贵的生命。而这不正是深入到我们每一个龙的传人的骨子里的品质吗？中华文明拥有着5000年的光辉历史。China has 5,000 years of glorious history。我们创造了千古流传的诗篇、绘画、音乐以及美食，我们同时也恪守礼制，严于律己。所以，当我们数千年来纪念屈原大夫的时候，我们早已将屈原大夫的这种精神视为最具有中华民族特色的审美观和道德观的楷模。接下来，有请我的英国同事司明成老师继续带大家用英文领略端午原说。谢谢。
At the beginning of Yoli's presentation, she gave us a very touching insight into what, as a member of the younger generation in China, Dragon Boat Festival, or Duanwujie, means to her. As her story centres so much around Zongzi, let's say a few words about them first. We have a neat translation in English of many traditional Chinese foods, such as jiaozi, dumplings. But there has never really been a simple translation of Zongzi. If you wanted to talk about them with a foreigner, you would just have to say the Chinese name, Zongzi. But do bear in mind that many foreigners may not even know what they are, so it's probably worth learning how to describe them. You can say something like this. Zongzi are balls of glutinous rice or sticky rice wrapped in bamboo leaves. You should probably also mention that you can get all kinds of different things wrapped up together with zongzi, everything from meat to dried fruit. Anyway, let's talk about Yoli's personal story. She said the following, and I'm going to quote now. When I was young, this traditional festival, as far as I was concerned, simply meant that I could finally take 2 days holiday. Finally, I didn't have to travel the monotonous path between school and home. I was able to go to my grandparents' house and play with my cousins. And finally, I could taste those zongzi, which I'd been missing all year. As the fragrance of the slightly fermented sticky rice combined with the fine, powder-like white sugar, the pure sweetness would rapidly spread from the tip of my tongue to engulf my whole palate. It was really too delicious. Time passed in a flash. While I grew up, my grandparents grew older. Gradually, their eyesight started failing, their backs grew more bent. The red plates were still piled high with washed glutinous rice and bamboo leaves laid out neatly. However, it was now the turn of my mother and aunts to take on the task of making and wrapping the zongzi. In the end, my grandparents died. Being abroad at the time, every time Dragon Boat Festival came around, I would, despite my lack of skill, produce zongzi after misshapen zongzi. In the end, I came to realize that what I was carrying on was a tradition and a festival that has a role for everyone, regardless of age or generation. This is a day when everyone gathers together. Each year, getting together again and again is the essence of what this festival is all about. When you're young, you don't necessarily get it. But this moment of a whole culture experiencing something together and remembering and missing past generations and ancestors has infused the atmosphere of this festival throughout the ages and, in this way, has embedded itself deeply in our souls as Chinese people. Of course, that element that Yoli mentioned of remembering ancestors is very much present in Dragon Boat Festival because It is one of the few major Chinese festivals which actually commemorates a particular ancestor, Qu Yuan. When explaining this festival to foreigners, one thing you need to think about is what it is about this particular man, Qu Yuan, that is so special, that has caused a whole festival to be built around him. Why is it that he, out of all the great figures in Chinese history, has been singled out? The answer, more than anything else, is that he embodies a kind of Chinese ideal. Someone who, on the one hand, pursued beauty and pleasure, but on the other hand, pursued justice and morality. His love of beauty is evidenced from his poetry, which still survives today. That poetry also reveals his love of pleasure, for example, good wine. But of course, the other element of his character was his fierce loyalty to his country, even when that meant opposing the king. So he combines these two aspects, a keen aesthetic sense and ability to enjoy life, with firm moral principles that enabled him to risk sacrificing the pleasures of life, which his exile represents, and even being willing to sacrifice life itself. When we put these two elements of Qu Yuan's personality together, we see something profound about the Chinese outlook on life, namely that life is something to be enjoyed and celebrated, but at the same time, we should have principles for which we are willing to sacrifice enjoyment or even life for. Looked at in another way, the two elements of Qu Yuan's personality represent the two core elements of culture. What is a culture other than, one, the art, literature, music, food, and other ways that a particular group enjoy life together, and two, the etiquette, manners, and moral principles which govern and restrict the way a group of people conduct their lives. So at heart, what Chinese people are celebrating during Dragon Boat Festival is moral uprightness and aesthetic enjoyment of life. The aesthetic enjoyment of life is shown through the eating of zongzi, the reciting of poetry from the Chuci, etc. However, we should also spend time thinking about the moral dimension of Duanwujie as well. This is a festival about a man who sacrificed his life for his country and was brave enough to speak the truth even when it was inconvenient to do so. He represents an ideal of both education, artistic sensibility, and moral cultivation that is uniquely Chinese.